Hey there, folks. It's Stephen again, your hardship real estate pro here in Utah. Today on the YouTube channel, I have a very special guest, another interview with someone outside of the state of Utah. If it's of any interest to you, sometimes I do know some big movers and shakers in other parts of the country since we're kind of isolated here along the Wasatch Front. Today, I have Phillip Vincent with Mom's House here on the YouTube channel. And maybe this is a little unconventional. I can always do introductions, but I always feel a little weird about it. I always tell my guests it's better if they introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do. And you guys know we just have a normal conversation for you to watch or listen to. So, Philip, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me on your show. Just the name of your show is the Hardship Real Estate. And I think about when somebody sells their house. Well, think about anytime you've ever sold a house, you either had usually a baby that was just born, so now you need a bigger house, or you went through a divorce and now we need to separate the house, or someone's passed away. And there's always life is happening, right? It's life that happens. And that's when the real estate changes. And a lot of times it can be a hardship for these families. And today we're going to talk about my journey here to Mom's House. I won't bore you guys with the story, but I've been in real estate now for 25 years. And it took me till 2011 to figure out, I'm not even kidding, I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anybody. The best leads I've ever found in real estate come from one source, and it's from people moving their loved ones into senior living. And so back in 2011, I started saying, "Hey, there's something here." And I went in. I knew I had peanut butter and chocolate. I just didn't know how to make the peanut butter cups yet. And I was, really trying to say, how do I do this? And I found it wasn't by showing up as an investor or even a real estate agent all the time. Like, and the crazy part is I'm both of those things. I am an investor, I am a real estate agent. So it's like, how do you break into it? And so I'm happy to be here and share with everybody listening about this niche. And people always say, Phil, what a nice little niche you have. And I'm like, wait till you hear the numbers. The numbers are gigantic. This is huge, guys. And so I'm happy to be here.
You talked about numbers. Tell me, what are some of these numbers you're referring to?
Some of my favorites are some of the popular ones you guys might have already heard. Is like 10,000 people a day are turning 65. Well, another 10,000 a day are turning 75, and that's a lot closer to that average age of 82 that moves into senior living. But I think one of the most telling numbers is that 7 out of 10 Americans over the age of 65 are going to live in some sort of assisted care before they pass away. And so, for anyone that wants to know why that means anything to do with real estate, is that only about 5% of Americans have enough money in the bank to write that average check of $6,000 a month for care. The other 95% have to sell something, namely Mom's house, to pay for that care. And it's that flashpoint of when they're going to need to unlock that equity for care. And so for me, I've just specialized in that flashpoint. I always say your life will change when you start to work with people that want your service. When you think about what it's like to try to generate seller leads, where a lot of times we're trying to find the needle in the haystack, and your whole life changes when people are like, Phil, I'm ready. I have to do this. Like true motivation. That true motivation is what we're all looking for.
In certain parts along, when I say the Wasatch Front, because I don't, for you guys that are out of state, the Wasatch Front's basically the Salt Lake Valley. So it's Salt Lake City, and then the cities that are about an hour north of it, an hour south of it, before you get into a couple other valleys. What we have seen is there's certain areas that have been here longer, like Bountiful or parts of Salt Lake City, especially Taylorsville, Murray, where you do have an aging population. Some people really, really, well, I'd say a lot of people, they really want to stay in the home, especially if kids aren't involved, because it's where they've lived their whole life. It's a scary transition. I mean, it's part of the reason we call ourselves hardship real estate. A lot of people think it's about the financial hardship. No, it's really about these transitions into alternative housing because of a big life change. Like I do a lot of mobile homes without land, which you can imagine that's a lot of different variables in terms of why someone would choose that type of housing. Then you have the senior transition housing, which is our second area of business, which is what we're talking about today. And then I do divorce real estate, which is, well, I think most people can imagine the difficulties there. But a lot of people, I'll talk to them and they have this idea of, well, I'll just get a reverse mortgage and stay here. It's one of the biggest things people say, but I don't know if I'm like most people. I tell people I think the reverse mortgage is the worst decision you can make because you're taking equity out of the home, but you're also pushing mom and or dad to stay in a home longer than maybe they need to. Because I don't know about you and your career, but I've seen people stay in a home too long where they fell down and got really hurt, or they fell down and died, or they didn't have family around. And then just it just is a mess. But I'm curious for your perspective on it. Because again, it's just something that comes up a lot.
Seniors live in houses that they should not. It was because it was their American dream to buy that house, raise their family, and live there as a forever home. The gratitude that I get to buy people's forever homes for a living. But in St. Louis, do you know how many houses that I bought that were 2 stories and the laundries in the basement? So mom's 2 flights of stairs away, and they end up putting the master bedroom or a bed in the living room right when you walk in, because that house would become functionally obsolescent for them. This is a national problem, not just Missouri, not just Utah, but everywhere. I read about Boston the other day. There's a lot of 3-story homes, brick, built in the late 1800s. Guys, you can't rehab your way into a house that's appropriate for seniors with that design. Like there's millions and millions. I think in fact, it was 30 million Americans live in houses that are not safe for them. And you said the word fall earlier. Guys, it is almost always a fall. Mom fell again. And so there's a lot of articles about mom. If mom's not what you call a hoarder that you like, Steven, have I ever told you that? What do you call a hoarder that you like?
I don't know if I've heard this. You're gonna have to say it.
Mom was a bit of an aggressive collector. She wasn't quite a
Oh, I
hoarder.
got
She was a
you
bit of
saying that. Yeah, yeah,
she
yeah,
was a
yeah.
bit of a, and it's true, right? I mean, when you live somewhere 40, 50 years, life just happens and stuff just happens. And sometimes that stuff, it becomes the trip hazards, becomes what makes the fall happen. And so, very much so, Americans live in houses that they shouldn't. I'm not a huge fan of reverse mortgage. I do think it's interesting for guys like you and I that are probably lifers in this real estate business. At least I hope to be here when I'm 100, still buying houses. Is the way seniors, or actually everyone, taps their equity is changing right now, before right in front of our eyes. The HELOC loans are so high that nobody wants those. The reverse mortgage, by the way, you can't even get a reverse mortgage if you're going to leave the house and move into senior living. So if my father's passed away and mom's living by herself, she can't even get a reverse mortgage anyway because she's leaving the home, right? And so you said something earlier about, do people want to leave the house? No, no one wants to leave their house. Write that down. No one wants to leave their house, but it's being forced to, because this generation, they listen to 3 people. They listen to their doctors, their lawyers, and their priest. And when the doctors and the priest are saying, "Hey, you got to move," they listen to it, and it's usually the adult children involved as well that are saying, "Hey, mom, it's time to make this move."
And with that move, I think it's probably a perfect transition to talk a little bit about your company and kind of your vision. Like, what is Mom's House? For those who don't know who you are and are watching this, how does it relate to them? And yeah, I mean, just tell us your story and what your business does.
Sure. Back in 2011, we had purchased 66 houses that year. And when we looked at the 66 houses we bought, I said, what is the generic story? If we had to tell one generic story about all these sellers, and it was the first time I ever told a story about dad passed away 8 years ago. Mom's been doing the best she can. She just fell again. The adult children live out of town. One of them lives in town. That burden falls on her. I lovingly call her daughter Judy. She's taking mom to all the appointments, and all that brunt's on her. Her brother lives in North Carolina, and he thinks everything his sister is doing is wrong. Every decision she makes is wrong. And daughter Judy, she's being pulled in at least 4 different directions. Her mom doesn't want to move into senior living. The community wants 7 grand a month. Her brothers and sisters think every decision she's making is blown out of proportion. And daughter Judy's still married, usually with children herself. She's blown all of her paid time off. She's a caregiver now. She's very stressed out. She's being pulled in 4 directions. And a lot of times when that fifth rope shows up is when, to move into care, every family, they all want top dollar, right? You, Stephen, you want top dollar. I want top dollar. The question is, to get mom's house to top dollar, what does it take to get it there? And I think this is where families are starting to go, in a time when I need money, the last thing I want to do is go find the money to rehab mom's house to try to get a couple extra dollars. And there's some tools out there like cost versus value guide that I'd love to share with you guys to show you might not get the return you think you will when you put those dollars in. And I think a lot of times families do it anyway because they look at their cost basis as zero. Mom paid her house off in 1991. So in their mind, it's cost basis is zero, but it's truly not the way it is. It's their hassle factor to try to get it there. And I think when you do the math of how long it takes to clean the house out, which is normally 90 days if things go well, and let's just say another 90 days for the rehab, and then another 30 days to sell it because you made it nice, you're still talking about kicking the can 6, 7, 8 months down the road. And a lot of families will say, "Isn't there another alternative?" And that's how Mom's House was born. It's like saying, "Hey, if I can show you your net number going retail and your net number with me, and we have a conversation just about that, giving that family the ability to make a decision that's right for them." More and more people are taking the route of saying, "Hey, I'm not a rehabber anyway, but by the time I go try to hire 23 contractors and find the money for it, I'd rather just take this number that I can be certain of."
I think that's exactly a lot of what we are doing with the senior transition housing because it is such a hard and overwhelming and stressful process in general. I mean, moving in general is, but when you are having to take mom and you are not only liquidating like a bunch of personal property in the house, but moving them into assisted living and memory care, it is such a big transition. Sometimes their health predicates that it is fast. So we really pride ourselves on being able to get them a cash offer that can close very quickly. We just did one a couple weeks ago, and the investor that bought it, he finished rehabbing it and it went on the market last week. And what was great is he actually brought those people, we sold it to him and all that, kind of the middleman. I was the listing agent. He brought those people who are in independent living now. They just wanted to be in a smaller place, brought them, looked at all the updates and tears in their eyes. They were just so happy. They said, "There's no way we ever could have done this. We never could have done it." Because I'll tell you, as a real estate agent, and I always like to put this in videos, I do always love to get people full market value if possible. If the house is in great condition, there's time, and I still believe in that. And sometimes it makes sense on a house, even if it needs work. It needs to be an end investor that buys it. But when it comes to these seniors, what's the more compassionate thing to do? Is it to force them, like you said, through that multiple month process and then they run the risk of not being comfortable in a new place? Or is it getting them a cash offer? Yeah, it's going to be below market value and going ahead and helping them move on to the next stage of life. What I found is the quicker they move into one of these communities, honestly, the happier they become and their life expectancy actually extends as well. It just, again, I've just seen families kind of heal from it, where all of a sudden mom's happier. There's not as much stress and worry about her in the house. And the reason I bring this up, and I always want to articulate this, is that we never want people to think that we're going after mom or anything like that. Because unfortunately, there are some unscrupulous people out there. What it sounds like you do, and you can maybe elaborate on this, is you're very involved with their kids through the process and the whole family. This isn't just sitting down with mom secretly in her house. So maybe you can talk to me about how have you guys interacted with the whole family when you're working through one of these transactions?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too. In a world, investors have a reputation. Sometimes it's not good, and seniors have a reputation sometimes for getting taken advantage of. And then I built a business around that. It's like, wow, okay, here. So what are we going to do to be different? And it's through a lot of education and training, and with empathy. I always say that I think females are better cut out for the job that I do, only because it takes an empathetic ear a lot of times to do this the right way. Of course, I'm a guy and I'm successful, so you can be too. But just in general, more back to the stereotypes, these families, how do you get them involved? When you think about it, daughter Judy is working with 10, 12, 15 different job titles in that journey for senior living. And so when they're getting advice from those people and they say, hey, you should call Phil, he's the most trusted guy in town. And they give me daughter Judy to say, hey, Philip, here's the person that this person needs this help. And so I include the family from the get go. You got to remember, guys, if mom's moving into senior living, there's a reason, right? You don't really take a completely healthy mom to senior living. Most likely, there's usually something happening. So they're financial planners, they're aid and attendance benefits providers, veterans benefit providers, elder care attorneys, the communities themselves, the placement agents, all these people that are giving advice to that family. That's who I work with. And so they say, hey, give Philip a call. He specializes in this. He comes out. And I'll give you some scary, it's scary, but it's good to know because we're on this right now for awareness, right? In St. Louis, and I'm sure it's similar where you live too. It might be hard to believe these two things, but I want you guys to hear them. The average estate sale in St. Louis generates between $3,000 and $5,000 in revenue. That's how much all the stuff sells for at the estate sale. The cost to put the sale on is between 3 and 5 grand. And when they get done, they're like, oh man, mom's Beanie Baby collection's not going to pay for care like we thought it was. Now they're tasked with doing the rehab because you can't do the rehab until the house is cleaned out. And guys, if I can give anyone free advice right now, there's this thing called cost versus value guide. So Google like cost versus value guide. They've been around for 23 years. You can go to your Utah, you can go to Salt Lake area, look at your metro, look what it costs to do a bathroom in 2010. Look what it cost in 2015, 2020, 2023. And then it'll show you the cost versus the value you received back. You guys are all going to be stunned. The numbers are less than. So for every dollar you spend, you get about 60 cents back. So in a time when families need money, is it really, I'm a rehabber at scale. You too, right, Stephen? You can do it for less than the average. That's why we're in this business. When you add that up, you said, I don't want to get these families less than retail value. I'm telling you right now, it's the same. By the time they overpay for their rehab and go through all the trouble of retail, those numbers are dang near each other. And then they go, hey, brother, I don't think we should rehab. Like, I don't sell them anything. They go, I don't think we should do this. I don't think this is the best use of our time when it's presented the right way. I try to sit on the same side of the table with the family, present their options, and then they make a decision that's right for them. And a lot of times that includes, hey, I'll just sell it to you, Phil, because this seems like the right move for us right now in life.
I love the whole being able to give the options, because one thing I like about being a real estate broker, but also an investor, is I kind of get to show people each side of it. Sometimes you have people on the real estate side, it's like, oh, investor's a dirty word. And it's like, no, there's a real place for this in this space. I guess that can happen sometimes in the investor side. It's like, oh, realtors, this and that. And so I like kind of being in both worlds. So when I talk to clients, I can present them with both options. It's funny you mentioned the bathroom rehab, that triplex. We were talking just before we got on the call, the triplex I looked at, the guy was talking about how he had wanted to push the bathroom back because it is a weird design. His house was built in the 30s. And I was like, I can tell you now from experience, it'd be about $15,000 to do that. And he couldn't believe me. He's like, oh, it's not worth doing. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't think it was worth doing if I was in your shoes. And it's just true. I think this is a problem throughout the whole United States where our inventory, much like our population, is aged and it needs a lot of work. There's been deferred maintenance. I walk into so many homes where the carpet was never replaced from the original carpet in the 70s and the 80s when it was built. It's a real thing. You see it all the time because I think this kind of that generation's mentality is like, well, the carpet's still good. I vacuum it. I don't need to replace it. There's just
Right.
kind of like, it's not broke, so I don't need to fix it. And sometimes in those homes, like you'll sometimes get families that are real go getters and they've cleaned up the house. And even though it's kind of got the old carpet and stuff, because of lack of inventory, you can still list it as is and get them probably more money. So that's like a case on the broker side where we push that.
Yeah.
But again, if there's a lot of stuff in the home, kind of like that triplex I saw today, it probably needs to be off market and cash offer. But I guess I'm stuck on this national trend. And there's so many people I think that are unaware of what we're facing as a country with our senior citizens. What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years with seniors?
We're in trouble. It's called the silver tsunami. Every stat is pointed straight up, pointed straight up. 2023, here we are winding down this year. This is the first year of the oldest boomers starting to move in. And so for the next 15 years, those numbers are going to grow. And so by the year, I'll give you an example. There's 54 million Americans over the age of 65 right now. And by 2030, there's going to be almost 74 million Americans over the age of 65. That's going to keep pushing those people into senior living. That's where the inventory is going to come from. Everybody wonders where the inventory is from. I'm here to tell you guys, a wise man once told me we're all going to work in senior living, whether you want to or not. So you might as well embrace it. And I really believe that that's where the inventory is going to come from, especially think about if you're 35 years old and you have an interest rate of 3.5, you're not moving unless you have to. I mean, this even during COVID, the people that had to move, and you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And so specializing in this or sinking your teeth into this and learning to be really good at it, guys. And it's more than just one thing. I surround them with probably 20 different things that they need at that time because it's more than just the house. The better you get at their stuff, we talked about the stuff a lot today, the better home buyer you'll be. Their identity is that stuff. And it's really hard to go from a 2,000 square foot house with a basement down to the new 644 square foot room when they have to get rid of 90% of their stuff. It's very hard on the family. I always lovingly say that families that get along don't get along during this process. It's just because it's so hard.
I think that's one of the reasons I'm doing these videos is here in Utah, I am the only real estate agent broker that has this focus. I got into it kind of by accident and I went looking for people and I couldn't find anybody for advice. I kind of figured a lot of stuff out on my own. And it wasn't until recently I kind of stumbled upon Catherine, and then I stumbled upon you. And I'm like, wow, I don't feel as lonely anymore. Cause I mean, I felt crazy, and some of my colleagues think I'm crazy for going to senior events or paying for a vendor booth and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I would love to see more agents and even investors get into it because I think there's such a big need. I do know there's a wholesaler investor down in Utah County, and I think they're partnered with you. I can't think of his name right now. I don't know him too well, but that's the only other person I know that like has a focus on it in here along the Wasatch Front. And I'd love to see more people get into it because the families need it.
There could
Uh,
be 23 more Stevens there and still not put a dent in this. There's that much pie out there for everyone. It's like saying you want to be the only real estate agent in Utah. I mean, it's so much. This this works only where people are getting older, and guys, that's everywhere in our nation. So we need more people to help in this niche.
Definitely, definitely. If you were gonna give a piece of advice to maybe families who have an older loved one that are watching this, what would be your piece of advice you'd give them right now?
Concentrate on the net number versus selling it retail or as is, and then compare those two numbers. And sometimes when you hear the retail number or you see what Zillow said, what they think they're going to net. There's tools out there to show you actually what the family will net, and then you start doing the hassle factor, the convenience of the sale. The average stay in senior living is only 21 months. And so if you knew you only had on average 21 months left with your parents, would you spend the next 6 months trying to rehab the house, especially if you lived out of town? And you said it kind of earlier. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, so forgive me when I say this. I agree with you, what you said earlier. When families move a loved one in, they do usually get better. And they say, man, I wish I would have done this 6 months ago, right? That's what they say. But it's one of those weird things that they don't want it. They fight it, then they get it. They're like, I should have done this earlier. Well, families don't know that until they experience it. Just know if you have the right people around you to make the good decisions on where to put mom. Let me be clear: the three-legged stool is where will mom get the best care. That's number one. That's the most important thing. Way more than the house and the stuff is where will mom get the best care. If you take your time on that, work with the local placement agents, the local communities, like really find the best care for mom, and then how to unlock the equity out of the house, really weigh the hassle factor there. And as Americans, we don't get in front of this stuff. We usually react when our hair's on fire. Just know there's companies like Stevens out there, like Mom's House, that we're trying to help these people. And you don't have to suffer like you're on an island. Everyone thinks that they're on an island with this because they've never experienced it before. But there's millions of daughter Judys going through this. In fact, the numbers show in St. Louis alone, we think there's about 2,000 families a month that are moving their loved one into the 300 communities that are here in St. Louis in one little town. That's a lot of opportunity, guys.
It's a lot of opportunity. And then just for those that are not in the business watching this, it's just there's a big need and we're here to help because it is difficult. Again, I fell into it by accident and everyone's heard my story a million times, but it was a deal I got into, help an old guy, got him the VA aid and attendance, sold the house as is with all the stuff, even the car and the cat were left when he moved into assisted living. And I went through that whole process with him and his daughter. And it was like, this is insane. This is like no other real estate transaction. And there's a huge need for it. There are so many details and nuances. And I guess I'm tooting my own horn. You do need someone who has the experience. Don't just
Yep.
hire the normal family realtor who's never done it because there can be mistakes. The VA one's one of the biggest ones. I see so many Vietnam vets not get the money because people never mention it to them. So they never fill it out.
Well,
It,
that and the Vietnam vet's wife is eligible for that,
uh,
and nobody knows that either. That's the big one to me. Usually the vet, if I'm being stereotypical, the vet is passed, the man is passed, but mom's eligible for that, and they just don't know. And
yeah.
that 21 grand, 18 to 21 grand a year difference, huge. That might mean mom can get a much nicer place. I want to talk to you about the F word for a second, fulfillment. I don't hear much people in our space talking about fulfillment, and I'll give you an example. When someone's passed away, that's pretty sad, right? That's a hard time. Or when somebody's getting divorced, that's pretty traumatic, right? What I love about senior living is everyone's coming together to try to help Nana make this as easy as possible to move. I mean, that man you helped and he got his car, his camper, his stuff in one swoop. You know how easy you made that guy's life? Do you know how much weight you took off that guy's shoulder in one swoop? And I love working with seniors because I get to see the weight come off the family's shoulders different than any other type of real estate that I've ever done.
Yeah, it was life-changing. That it was life-changing, and then it opened my eyes. Yeah, I think there is a lot of fulfillment in this stuff, and it's because these are the things that make me feel proud to be a real estate agent. Because sometimes you hear the stuff like, "Oh, you're just a door opener and this and that," but I'm like, "No, I'm really specialized for this because this stuff's really difficult."
Very
And
difficult.
well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I don't have any other questions, but I'm curious if you had anything else you'd like to add before we close out.
No, for all of us, we're ever changing our businesses, guys. We used to spend a lot of money in the yellow book. That was the phone book, right? Because we used to get deals from it. We don't do that at all anymore. And my point to that story is, for one, I'm old. That tells you how long I've been around. But the point is that how we market ourselves is changing, and there's nothing better than referrals, namely warm referrals. And if you take this seriously and learn that nuance, don't think it's just, oh, another listing appointment. It's not. It's a lot more to it than that to really help these families. If you pour yourself into this industry, senior living will feed your real estate career for the next 15 or 20 years. It's that real and that serious.
That's great. Well, Phil, I appreciate you coming on the YouTube channel today, all the way via Zoom from St. Louis, Missouri. It's been a while since I went to St. Louis. I don't know if you know this. I grew up in Memphis. I've only lived in Utah for about 11 years. But again, thanks so much for coming on, taking time out of your busy schedule. And for those of you that are watching, his information will be in the description box below. It and would like for you to go check out his YouTube channel, his website. Go ahead and I think he's got way more videos than I do right now on some of the senior transition stuff. But if you have any comments or questions, just comment below or email or text. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks.